Alright, let's move on to the flank and damage category. I think we're doing a pretty good time per champion. Like I said, I really need to. I'm just trying to hit the main points because otherwise this video could be long, and it already is going to be long. So moving on to Androxus. Androxus had another step, increased distance at base, along with a change to his deck, or yeah, to his card through the warp. So basically, what's going to happen is for 2 points, you're going to be about the same, but after 2 points, you're going to get a lot less value out of this card. So I'm going to see. I'm betting that Androxus players are only going to put 2 points in it. Um, Besides that, honestly, Andrax's changes really aren't that big of a deal. They changed Featherweight, which no one was really running. I actually could see this card being run. Now it heals for 50 seconds every level, 50 health per second every level while drifting in the air, which is basically when you're holding spacebar. Besides that, they did give him an ammo card. So overall, actually, I think these are Androxus buffs. It doesn't really seem like it, but I think these are buffs. Very slight, very, very, very slight buffs, but buffs done the same. Because I think this quick draw card will be run. And I think this increased dash distance at base, along with 2 points, which is what people were running at it already, is actually a buff to his dashes. Buck is getting a slight net Buck nerf, which I don't really understand. I don't think net Buck was OP or anything. And I do think the extra half second is not going to make up for the 10% reduced damage on all your shots. So not a huge fan of that. I think Ensnare Buck could have stayed the same. Besides that, really not many other changes. The only other card that is kind of interesting is this card right here, Exhilarate. It used to be this heal for whatever, whatever. When you hit a champion with Heroic Leap, no one really ran it. Now, it's going to be, if you hit at least one champion with Heroic Leap, it reduces the cooldown by 1 second per level. So you could actually run this card in Bulk Up Buck, potentially, or in Bounce House. It might be pretty good in Bounce House. It might be just a more consistent Stomping Grounds, where you can jump out without it. It can only happen every 5 seconds, but I don't think that's that big of a deal. You're not getting your jump off CD instantly very often, unless maybe you're running Stopping Grounds alongside this. So I actually do think this card's really cool, and I cannot wait to try that one. That'll be a lot of fun in a Bounce House deck. Moving on to, okay, so yeah, let's talk about Buck real quick before we move on. Buck overall, not much changed in my opinion. Pretty much the same champion. Eevee did have 3 changes, but the changes actually affect her quite a bit. Flicker reduced healing to 50 health per level whenever you blink. It used to be 375 health. Now it's going to be 250 at 5 points. I think you're still going to run it at 5. So that's actually a pretty big difference. It's going to be what, like, you're going to get 750 to 500. So that's 250 health difference when you're blinking in and out with Wormhole. That's going to be a pretty big deal, in my opinion. But there are some changes to her other cards that can kind of make up for it. Eevee is getting a health card. Increase her maximum health by 30 per level. It's obviously a really weak health card, but I think people will start running it, at least as a 1 or a 2 of. Any extra health on a champion that's as weak as Eevee in terms of max health helps her a lot. Like, there are a lot of times you're going to live at under, that 30 HP threshold, and this card is going to save you. It's going to happen. So basically what they did was they changed her sustain and they gave her a little health. I think it's fine. I think she might have had a little too much sustain, especially with cauterized changes. That's why this nerf actually isn't as big as people maybe think it is. But overall, I think it seems like it's kind of a neutral change, just changing her a little bit. She's going to be a little tankier, but have a little less sustain. Overall, I think it's about a neutral change, and I don't think it's a buff or a nerf too much. Moving on to Koga. Koga had a decent amount of changes. I don't think it's really enough to make him viable. They increased his health. They buffed his submachine guns quite a bit, or a decent amount. I don't know exactly how much. We'll have to wait and see. If this is a huge buff, like to Andrew, I actually could see Koga being viable. If it's not that big of a deal, then Koga's probably still going to be bad. They did change how Dragon Sense works, though. Now it costs 20 energy to switch, but the rate of energy decay is a lot less. So I could actually see this turning Koga into a stance switching character, like an actual stance switching character, where he switches back and forth. Because That reduced decay could be a big deal. These are the things that you're gonna have to test out with Koga to know exactly how much it's gonna change. It'll be interesting though. It'll be interesting. My gut feeling is still telling me Koga's gonna be pretty weak next patch, but these could be a pretty big deal. Moving on to Lex. Lex just had some card changes. Really, the only big one is re-equip. Increased ammo generation to 2 per level, so you're only going to have to run like 1 point, or maybe even run 2 to get 4 ammo back. Would be pretty good. Besides that, just very, very minor changes to Lex. Not much there. Maeve. Maeve's big changes are to her damage reduction cards. Scar Tissue is getting buffed by 1% per level. Not a huge deal, but it could be enough to make it used in her decks, with the fact that Sixth Sense is getting nerfed by 1% per level. So these two combined, I could see these cards getting interchanged. You now run Scar Tissue instead of Sixth Sense. But I think overall it is for a healthier Maeve, because Scar Tissue is damage reduction on 9 lives, which is casted 1 time every 20 seconds, where Sixth Sense is your Pounce, which is casted multiple times within 20 seconds, right? Maybe even 3 times. So I actually do like this change. The rest of her cards don't really matter. So overall, I think Maeve is actually getting nerfed. Albeit slight nerfs, I still think she's going to be one of the better flanks. Moji's got a lot of changes actually, and overall, there's only a few really big ones. Snack Attack, I think, is still really bad. Your healing is less, and it can be picked up by teammates. I think that's actually a nerf. Boom Boom is getting nerfed, and Toot is getting changed so that it applies its healing as a single application instead of a persistent cloud. Not sure how that's going to work. I think it's going to be a buff for Toot, or like for Moji, but a nerf for your team's healing. So overall, I actually think that's a buff, because Moji isn't really a healer. Like, she's not healing your team much. That was always just a bonus. Like, yeah, great, my team's getting healed as well. It wasn't something that made Moji picked. So I think this is a Toot buff. They are changing Moji into like a damage reduction style thing. They buffed her damage reduction cards and they created a new one. So they buffed Wobbles, which is your Scamper damage reduction by 2% per level, which is actually going to be insane. 40% damage reduction on Scamper is actually pretty good. I could see people running this. And also this Harmonious card, reduce your damage taken by 3% per level for 2 seconds after Magic Barrier ends. I think this is actually a really big nerf, because this card right here used to be really strong. It was really strong. It could full heal you in your shield, and I don't think 15% damage reduction for 2 seconds is gonna be enough to negate that full healing. So I actually think that's a really big nerf to this card, and I don't think people will run it. Besides that, minor tweaks to the rest of her cards. Not much different. I mean, this Nature's Blessing card got like a double percentage buff to her ultimate charge when you're hitting your left click. That seems pretty good. I don't know if it's going to be enough to be used. But besides that, not much else changed with Moji. It's a lot of just like small changes. Overall, I think Moji is getting... I don't know. It's hard to tell. I want to say nerf. I really want to say nerf, but it could be a buff if the Scamper card ends up being really good. Because that's 40% DR. It's quite a bit. Moving on to Sky. Sky's changes are really odd. They're nerfing her Poison Bolts build, with Decrepify and Poisoner, and they're buffing Smokes and Daggers. They're changing how it works. Basically, Sky can now also give her team's movement speed and also additional healing with Healing Vapors with Smoke and Dagger. So it is really, really odd. I don't know how good it's going to be, but it might be fun. So that's why I kind of like it. It's gonna be a fun build that's kind of memey, but you could run it. Like, I would love to run this build. You know, running Smoke and Dagger alongside movement speeds cards with Smokescreen and cards that reduce Smokescreen's cooldown. I don't know, it seems kind of fun. I'm not really sure what they're going for with it, but it does seem like it's just minor changes and changing Smoke and Dagger to be a little bit more fun. So overall, Sky, not much different. Still pretty bad. Talus. Talus's changes are very few changes, and they're kind of weird. Basically, all they're doing is they're trying to make like this ultimate charge card be good. I don't know. They're giving him a health card though, and that's probably the biggest deal. The rest of the other two cards, I don't think you're gonna run this knockback card on Blitz Upper, and this Dark Vision, it seems like a buff because it now grants ultimate charge from hitting enemies instead of killing. But I don't know. How's that gonna work? Like, are you gonna get 15% ultimate charge every like shot you hit, and you're just gonna be able to ult like crazy? I don't know. I really don't know. It's gonna be quite interesting. Like, but this health card is actually a huge deal. Talus's biggest issue is dying to burst. Any more health helps against burst. So overall, Talus is getting slight buffs. Zin has some interesting changes. Very interesting. Yomi is getting completely destroyed because they are putting Yomi's effect in his base kit, which I really, really like. So Yomi no longer has the extended range and piercing effect, and the base kit now has that extended range and piercing effect. So now Yomi literally only increases your third attack by 150 damage, which seems very, very weak. However, them putting this in the base kit makes Smolder and Guillotine a lot better. I think Smolder is 100% meta next patch, especially with them increasing duration by a half second. So that means you're probably going to get full healed in Smolder, if I'm not correct. And Guillotine, I don't know. Guillotine is just going to be bad, I think, because the morale boost changes. You really needed to run morale with it to get any value. I don't know. Maybe with this being in the base kit, Guillotine won't be bad now. It's actually going to be kind of interesting. But my gut feeling is telling me that Smolder will be better. His cards really, a few changes to his cards. They're actually kind of a big deal. Embers now regenerates 2 ammo per level after activating Billow. So this card is actually really, really strong. Two ammo per level, really, really good. I think this is going to be run of as a 2 or 3 of index, 100%. Up in Smoke, they are nerfing by 2% per level. Because of the increased duration to 2 seconds on Billow, I could see people running Up in Smoke again at a higher levels. Because this paired with the Hideout card, and Smolder, that seems really good to me. It seems like Zin is going to be very, very strong next patch. Fuel the Fire got changed from this lifesteal card after using Whirl to movement speed after using Whirl. So I actually like this change. Really good. I think this card probably won't get used, but it's definitely up for consideration now. And they also had a cool change to Viciousness. Viciousness used to give you ammo after successfully countering attack, which no one like people ran it, but it was pretty bad. Now it reduces the cooldown of counter by successfully hitting an enemy with counter. So they're trying to bring back retaliation a little bit with it, which is kind of cool. I think it actually could be seen in Dex, this card. It's going to be kind of hard to run because you're going to have to run 5 points in it, but I could see this card being used. Like having your cooldown of your counter up and half the CD when it's already a really short CD seems pretty good to me. So overall, Zin, I actually really like the changes. I'm kind of sad for Yomi because Yomi's pretty much dead now, but I do overall like the changes a lot to Zin. Really happy with those. So that's the flanks. Overall, it seems like flanks didn't really get touched that much. Not much mobility changes, no damage changes if I'm incorrect, or if I'm correct about that. Overall, I'm flanks really didn't get touched that much, and honestly, I'm cool with it. I think the changes they did do were interesting. They're gonna change up the playstyles a lot of the champions, and I'm cool with it. I like the flank changes. I do. So last but not least, damages. Let's get to it. Bomb King, his changes are directly around his Grumpy Bomb. Really, the only two big ones, and this one's not even a big one. It's just a minor uh, increase in power of the cooldown reduction. But this card right here, Fallout. Fallout was a really bad card before. Reduce the cooldown of Poppy Bomb by 1 second for each enemy hit by Grumpy Bomb. Really, really bad. Now, you increase his Grumpy Bomb's stun duration by 0.1 seconds per level. That is big, along with the resilience changes. So these two cards together, along with Accelerant, I could see this deck actually being pretty good. Increasing Grumpy Bomb's stun by 5 seconds along with a 3-second cooldown reduction on it. That could be pretty good. I definitely want to see what Accelerant comes to play with, because I think Accelerant was just completely unused for most people. And now, with that being a thing again, with Fallout being a thing, I don't know. Maybe it'll be more viable talents because I think right now Royal Subjects is by far the best. Chain Reaction is a slight second, like very very close, but not quite close at the same time. And Accelerant's just garbage. So now I could see 3 viable talents alongside these 2 cards. So I like that. Cassie is pretty much getting nerfed across the board. I think all 3 of Cassie's talents are getting hurt. They're nerfing big game's damage by 2%. Dodge roll, it reduced the base cooldown to 7 seconds. That hurts Exaction so much. Obviously, it hurts Cassie's entire kit, but Exaction a ton more. Because they're not really compensating with Incitement. Like, Incitement, they're increasing the cooldown by 0.3 seconds per level, but if you do the math, at 5 points, this is 4 seconds, so the cooldown would be 3 seconds. At 5 points now, it was 2.5, so the cooldown would have been 2.5 seconds. So it actually is an Incitement nerf, even though it seems like a buff at face value. It is not. They're also changing Onslaught, which was a meta card in Exaction. But I think it actually is better now. Now activating dodge roll heals you for 40 health per level. I think it actually is better. I don't think you were getting 200 health very consistently out of this. I don't know. It wasn't like if you had 4 points in it or 5 points, you would get what 300 healing, I guess. So you were getting more healing out of this, but it was less consistent. So this one you'll now always get the healing. So I don't know. It's a nerf, but also a buff, kind of. It's weird. Also, Drain Life. It says Dodge Roll, but it is actually a Blast Shot card. It was when you Blast Shot, you got healed for 100 health per level. Now it is 75 health per level. Definitely a lot worse. 25% nerf. Pretty big deal. Not a huge deal. I still think Impulse. Like, looking at all these nerfs, Impulse probably got hurt the least. So I think Impulse is Cassie's best talent currently. And I still think Cassie's good. Like, they did not nerf her damage, except for big game. Her mobility was already really good, so now it's just okay. So overall, I think Cassie is still fine. This is not enough nerfs to make her a bad champion. She is still a good champ. Moving on to Dredge. Dredge's changes are completely useless. Nothing here. Literally still bad. Like, all these things are so minor changes that it's not even worth talking about. Dredge, still bad. Drogo's, same thing with Drogo's, really. Honestly, Drogo's did not get changed at all for, a top-level Drogo's player. Not much changes here at all. Drogo's still the same next patch. Not much different. Amani. Amani's got some cool changes. I'm really excited to try out Amani next patch. Frostbolt and Fireball, they removed the in-hand offset. If you guys don't know what that was, you'd shoot out of a certain way instead of out of your eye, how everyone else shoots in the game. So you would get clipped on walls with your Frostbolts and stuff, depending on what side you were shooting on. Fireball, you get clipped on walls. So that's a pretty big deal. The mid-air and accuracy is also a huge deal, specifically with Fireball, but also Frostbolt a little bit. The reason why Fireball is because if you jumped while charging your Fireball, there was a bug where it would actually give you that inaccuracy even if you were standing still while shooting. So the fact that that's gone, I'm assuming that bug will be completely gone as well. So I think Fire Amani might be good next patch. I cannot wait to try it though. Also, they did some stuff with her shift build. They're trying to make her more stance switchy. They did nerf the base cooldown, but then they buffed the base cooldown and then they nerfed like the shift cards. So I'm not exactly sure what they're going for here. Like, if you're gonna try to make shifting a thing, don't nerf the shift cards as well. I think they had to keep both if they wanted to make shifting viable. I think with Amani, it's still going to be you're either fire or you're frost. I don't think there's going to be this, stance switching. I'm fire here, I'm frost here. Like, they're going to have to do some major changes to these shift cards and stuff to make that happen. Besides that, they did buff Frostbomb at base. They did nerf the card for it, but they buffed it at base, which is cool. I think that's definitely the play. They did nerf the root duration, but it's still kind of just an added effect. Frostfire Glide did get buffed, which is very nice. Frostfire Glide, kind of a weak ability. Buffing it was a good call, I think, for sure. Mystic Fire was a card I really like in Fire Amani. That got buffed slightly. think it really matters that much, but it is nice. So overall, I cannot wait to change the Amani. I think the Amani changes are exactly what they needed to do with her, at least to try her out. From here, they can work on the numbers, right? They can buff these cards again to make shifting Amani a thing, or whatever. Moving on to Kinessa. Kinessa. So Kinessa got some buffs. They did some weird things with their mines, as you can see. I don't really think these do anything. These are just completely pointless changes in my opinion. Mines are still gonna be just to dismount and spawn and get people off their mounts. Or maybe like, let you know that someone's coming from a certain area. They're still gonna die in one shot by most champions, and if not, it's gonna be two shots, right? Transporter, they buffed it, decreased the time it takes to teleport. Interesting buff. I don't know if they needed to do it, but I'm cool with it. And honestly, it's gonna be nuts with this new card here, guys. Right here, Power Supply. It used to be just a completely terrible card. And now, what it does is resets the cooldown of Transporter after dropping to below 15% health per level. So now Kinessa has a reset card. It is going to be a lot harder to get on her with this decreased time in Transporter. It's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting. She's going to have double teleport to live. Like, that's some pretty big buffs. And also, they just nerfed her, they buffed her DPS. It's going to take less time to breach her maximum charge. So her damage per second at her max charge is going to be better. So Kinessa is getting some buffs. I think this will bring her in line with Strix a little bit. As long as Strix sees the right nerfs here, I think Kinessa and Strix are about equal this next patch with all these changes. They also did change Restore. Restore used to be her heal card for Transporter. Now it heals for a flat 25%, but it has a very long cooldown that you can reduce with points. They're doing this new thing where they're adding these cards that you can reduce the cooldown of it with points instead of increasing the effectiveness. I think it's kind of interesting. At the same time, I think it's a little weird. I don't hate it. I don't like it. It's just, I guess it is cool that they're creating, new styles of cards that they can maybe, get more creative with in the future. And it also does change the balance of it a little bit. So it's kind of whatever to me. It's kind of an interesting thing, and it doesn't really matter that much. Leon's really only change is precision. They're they're buffing precision to have a higher maximum stack at 28% and also stack faster. I could see precision getting used with this. Eminence obviously isn't getting changed, so it's still going to be just as good as it was this patch. But with precision getting these, I think these are pretty big buffs. At 2 stacks you're getting 14% damage boost instead of 10%, and at 4 you're getting 28% compared to the 20% at 4 for the. I know obviously you can stack it again, but the amount it's stacking at is actually a pretty big difference, and I think precision could be meta next patch. Shaolin has a lot of changes, a lot of changes, and overall after reading through them all, I'm just gonna go through them because there's so much changing that for me to I'm just gonna go through it all. There's a lot changing here, but Sha is getting changed a ton. So recurve is just getting a straight buff by 10% increased draw rate reduction. Really good. Recurve is probably gonna be the best talent by far, and I'll show you guys why. Because these talents are not very good. Explosive arrows is now called Sand Trap. So what they're doing to impale their arrow is instead of applying a knockback and stunning, it now cripples. So Shaolin has a cripple for 2 seconds now, which is pretty weird. One of the only damages that can cripple in the game. I think Eevee being the only other one. Is there another one I'm forgetting? I don't think so. So anyways, so now his crippling arrow explodes in a 20 unit radius, so it still explodes, but it deals less damage and cripples all enemies for 1 second. So from what I can tell, I still think it cripples the person you hit for 2, but the other people it cripples for 1, so it's an AoE cripple. Kinda interesting. I don't know where that would see much value, but interesting. And now they're changing Desert Shadow to now do something with Crippling Arrow, and now silences. So now you have a ranged silence on Sha if you go Desert Silence. Really weird. Really weird. But I'm okay with it. It's interesting. I think Desert Shadow I think explosive arrows getting changed kind of sucks. I wish they would have maybe done like a sand trap desert silence mix and kept explosive arrows the way it was in terms of like what it did. Like it no longer crippled or something like that. I think that would be a little bit more interesting, but I'm alright with it. Overall, he got a reduction on his withdraw and base, and he got a planted rework and is now rapid shot, which is more like Overwatch Hanzo's abilities. Now he's more of like a mobile damage instead of just stopping in one area and doing tons of damage. So now what happens is he rapidly fires off a barrage of arrows, each dealing 500 damage. Players can now move. It does slow you by 20%. However, there are buffs across the board, pretty much. It reduced the cooldown of it. They decrease the duration, but you can move. The damage is reduced, but you can move. And they decrease the number of shots. So I guess those aren't really buffs, but the fact that you can move is a pretty big deal. It makes this ability a lot better than Planted, most likely. Like, Planted was insane when you got it off. The problem is you just didn't get it off enough. So overall, like, I think you could just run a pretty standard recurve Sha alongside this new rapid shot, and it'll be a lot stronger this patch. I think Sha is getting buffs. In terms of his cards, not crazy. There's a rapid shot card here that's getting nerfed. Mirage card's getting nerfed to go inside with the base reduction on his cooldown on withdraw. Besides that, Wanderlust, this is a pretty big nerf. Reduce the movement speed from 5% per level to 3%. Wanderlust was honestly one of Sha's best cards, and now it's pretty mediocre. They did the same thing to Leon when Leon had a movement speed card, and they nerfed it, and no one ran it anymore, so it's basically the same thing as that. I don't think people are going to run this. They're probably going to find different cards to run. There is this card right here along Rapid Shot that's kind of interesting. It used to have a damage reduction card with Planted. Obviously, they want to take that out because Rapid Shot's a lot better now. And they now hitting an enemy with arrow fire during Rapid Shot applies a slow. Honestly, I could see this being used. Like, a slow on Rapid Shot when you're also slow will help you a lot with it. So, I don't know. I can see that being used. It's kind of interesting. Shaolin getting a slow, a cripple. Very interesting changes to Sha this patch. Very, very interesting. We'll see what it goes with. But I think overall this is a buff. I think Shaolin is stronger next patch. Moving on to Strix. We're getting some Strix nerfs. Let's go. These are pretty much the nerfs I've been asking for a long time. The problem with Strix was always he was a really good sniper and also really good close range because of his stealth and his pistol did insane damage. So now they're not changing his stealth, but they are nerfing his pistol quite a bit. And they're also nerfing his base health to 2,000. I'm okay with that. Bring him in line. You know, if he's doing that much damage and that much survivability, make him a little less tanky. And here are the big changes that are nerfing Strix that I think are going to make Strix a lot worse and in line with Kinessa is his pistol is beating a base reduction in damage by quite a bit, 220 to 165. They're increasing the ammo count, which doesn't really matter because everyone ran cold mags and you didn't really need all 10 ammo anyways because of this card. But they're also reducing the inaccuracy. So it is going to be a little bit more accurate, but it's going to do a lot less damage. So big deal to his pistol. And now that unauthorized use is getting decreased damage from 400% to 250%, that's a lot of damage. That's a lot less damage. A lot less burst out of Strix, close range. So overall, I kind of like these changes. I honestly would maybe have nerfed unauthorized use more. I would have maybe made this 200%. However, I do think Strix will still be played quite a bit. I don't think these nerfs are enough. I think they're a decent amount for sure, but I do not think they're enough to make Strix completely useless or like in the situations where he should be useless, right? Like, you know, small maps, Jaguar Falls, Brightmarsh, stuff like that. Like he should be useless on those maps. I don't know if this will be enough. I think you might need to nerf him a little bit more. Honestly, that's my honest opinion. He did get a change to Crack Shot, which is whatever. Crack Shot was pretty bad in my opinion. Now it's called Elemental Bullet, so they're taking a little bit more from Realm Royale. Talon Rifle now deals an additional 60 damage over 3 seconds, and in no longer headshots. The damage over time does refresh, so you can stack it up to 3 times, and it will full refresh with the new stack. Honestly, this does not jump out to me as being very good. An extra 180 damage when you stack it 3 times, which you're almost never gonna do, right? Like if you're hitting something 3 times with your Talon Rifle, that character is dead. It is dead. And I think the fact that it can no longer headshot, if it could headshot alongside this, okay, maybe. But the fact that you can't headshot anymore is a pretty big deal. Maybe for people, like some folks that, don't hit as many headshots and they want that extra damage, sure. But I do think unauthorized use or nocturnal are probably the better talents for Strix. So overall, like I said, I don't know if this is enough to make Strix useless on those certain areas that he should be. Hopefully he is though, because I'm kind of tired of playing against the Strix. You know what I'm saying? Tyra is pretty much dead, honestly. Like they're nerfing her damage. They're changing how burn. They're nerfing burn monster. They're nerfing her base damage. They're buffing Firebomb's cooldown, but they're taking the healing effect reduction away from it, which is a huge nerf. Honestly, I'm not sure what they're doing with Tyra. Like, I guess they just want Tyra to be bad or just be a burn monster bot. Nade Tyra's pretty weak. Hunting Party is pretty much dead. And Burn Monster is only really good against ROM and, like, tanks. I don't know. I'm not sure what they're doing with Tyra, but I don't know. Not a big fan of the changes. I think this pretty much just kills her. Her cards, nothing really there to talk about in her cards. I mean, a slight buff to Nade Tyra. I mean, so this auto rifle changes. They're reducing the damage fall off and reducing weapon spread. But is this enough to make Tyra actually do damage at long range or medium range? I don't think it is. 18% reduction does not seem like that much to me. Alongside this reduced damage, like they're nerfing her damage by 15, and then buffing the damage fall off by 18. I don't know. It's Tyra seems pretty much dead to me. Moving on to Victor. I think Victor and Vivian are our last two. Oh, Willow too. We got 3 more. So Victor, they're nerfing cardio to kind of keep it in line with the cauterize changes. They are also nerfing scramble. Besides that, really nothing much in here that's very good. They're changing some cards. Now there's a movement speed after throwing a grenade card. There's also a reduced cooldown on frag grenade while hustling. I don't know. Maybe that card's good in cardio. I'm not sure. But overall, Victor's changes are completely useless to base Victor, as far as I can tell. Cardio Victor's the only thing getting changed, and as far as I can tell, not much changes there. So Victor is about the same. Maybe one of these 2 new cards get used. My guess is Guerrilla Warfare, possibly, but at the same time, I could totally see none of these getting used. And I do think Scramble getting nerfed 1% is fine. Honestly, I kind of would have liked to see this card getting reworked. This card started seeing play at HRX, and I don't know, just running around with 20% damage reduction, 25% damage reduction as Victor, I don't like it. I think this is a rework. I think when you're running away as Victor is when you should be vulnerable. And the fact that this card negates that, I'm not a big fan. I kind of would have liked to see a rework of that. So overall, Victor about the same. Vivian changes are kind of interesting, actually. They're getting rid of Suspect Everyone and they're reworking it to a new card that I actually kind of like. Deflector's shield health is increased by 350 and its cooldown is halved if destroyed by an enemy. So there's going to be some kind of counterplay where you're not going to want to kill her shield because the cooldown will be halved. So you're going to want to shoot her still because you want to shoot her feet. But if you miss and you hit her shield, now her cooldown's halved on it. And her shield's going to be pretty good just for the fact that she's got a card for it and Wrecker is getting nerfed. A lot less people are going to buy it. So I don't know. It might be kind of interesting. Besides that, there's some sensor drone cards that are getting changed, which are completely useless because they only work when enemies getting revealed by sensor drone, which okay, that barely happens. So why run these cards? You're just not going to. They did buff this card called Controlling Nature, which when you're looking down your sights, it reduces the cooldown of your sensor drone. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, it's such a small buff that it's whatever. But overall, the big change is this Suspect Everyone change. I kind of want to try around with this. I think this actually could be pretty good. Besides that, not much change of Vivian. Same old champ. not much there. Willow is getting some insane nerfs here. Some insane nerfs. Willow, I would have liked to see them change the damage reduction card on her dash. I kind of understand why they're keeping it. It's probably the only thing keeping Willow afloat. If that card didn't exist, I think Willow would be probably pretty bad. So them keeping that card, I'm honestly kind of cool with it at the end of the day. I understand why. So what they are doing though is they're nerfing Blast Flower. They're reducing the duration of you being able to stack someone to 3 seconds. So you keeping multiple stacks on people is probably not going to happen. You're only going to be able to stack one person. And the damage bonus of that each stack is only 80 now. So the damage is less, and they're reducing the duration by 2 seconds. Honestly, I don't know if these nerfs are enough to make it so that you're going to run Nightshade or what's the Scorn? Honestly, possibly. Scorn might be a little underrated. Honestly, people might switch to Scorn. I kind of want to see that. Also, there's this new Seedling card that increases the projectile speed of Seedling. This paired up with Scorn might be a thing. I think this nerfs are pretty good because I think it's going to make people look at Nightshade. It's going to make people look at Scorn a little bit more. Besides that, she had a lot of Dead Zone card changes. There was this Shenanigans card that I thought was just completely atrocious. That's getting changed to a card that actually might get used. Just now using Dead Zone increases your movement speed instead of entering it, which you pretty much never entered your Dead Zone. So that's another reason. Like Pixie Dust is bad because Pixie Dust is the exact same thing. It's a health per second while in Dead Zone. Why ever run that? Twilight got some minor buffs. Not a big deal. So overall with Willow, oh wait, also Just Believe got nerfed, which is her Elim card. I kind of like that change. I think that Elim cards are, when they're really strong, and they're strong, and 10% per level on Willow was really strong. So I think a minor nerf makes sense. So overall, Willow is actually getting nerfed pretty hard. I think she will still be meta in the right situation. She might be one of those things where you don't pick her every time. But if there's an open situation, they don't have much hit scan, a map where she really thrives on, like Timber Mill or Stone Keep, where there's a lot of high ground, she could definitely see some play. So overall, that was the damage category. So damages, not much changes for damages actually. So what this seems like to me is they hit the right areas. They reworked things that needed to get reworked. They buffed things that I think deserved buffs. They nerfed things that I think deserve nerfs. And there was a decent amount of things that I liked about this patch. Overall, for the damages, I think damages stayed the same. If I had to say something, I don't think there was many buffs across the board and nerfs. And overall, tanks getting nerfed is the big thing about this patch. Tanks nerfed, supports buffed, damages flanks about the same. Overall, I think it's been a really good patch. Enough things are different that I think it'll revitalize the game a little bit in terms of just learning new stuff. There's a lot of new things in here. And it's not all just number tweaks. Yeah, there are number tweaks which are going to change some things, but there are reworks and things that are cool. I really like the impasse change for Inara. I like some of the the rework stuff with Sha. I think it'll be very interesting. And overall, I rate this patch probably a 7.5, 8 out of 10 in terms of just balance and changes like that. In terms of like quality of life changes and Tiberius, I really like that. If you guys want to know my Tiberius thoughts, I did just do a Tiberius video yesterday, so make sure you guys check that out. But overall, yeah, that's my patch rundown. I tried to make it as quick as I could. There's so many changes there that like it's hard to talk about everything. But I hope you guys got the gist, and I hope I got it down to a small enough time that you guys can enjoy it and learn enough about the patch that you know the basics and like the big changes. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. There's going to be more gameplay videos and stuff like that coming up. That's probably it for my patch reviews until PTS comes out. Tiberius videos are coming. More gameplay and ranked and stuff like that videos are coming. Interesting content is coming. So make sure you guys support the stream, support the YouTube, sub, follow, all that good stuff. Follow the Twitter, join the Discord, support the community if you guys are enjoying it, because I really appreciate that. And like all the good comments and stuff like that. Thank you guys so much. That stuff means a lot to me, like for real. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next vid. Peace.